The modern family. The modern family. Let us bridge the gap between generations. Let us shape up the modern family.
Rahim, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, all praise be to Allah, the master of the day of judgment. And peace and blessings be upon our beloved messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dear listeners, welcome to our show, The Modern Family. I salute you all with the salutation of the people of paradise. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your host, Hatim al-Absalam, and joining me is
Wa'il al-Harrasi.
Nice to see you again, Wa'il.
Nice to see you too.
And today we have another interesting topic, which is sports in our lives. And our distinguished guest for today is Mr. Ahmed bin Saeed Al-Azkawi, who is a petroleum engineer, a dedicated father, and an enthusiastic sportsman, and a sports promoter. Assalamu alaikum, Ahmed.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you today?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and coming to the show. And I'm sure today's topic is very rich and very useful, and we'll all benefit out of it. I'm sure the three of us in this room today, we are sportsmen.
I feel fresh already.
We enjoy sports, we love sports, and I think every single parent should be a sportsman or a sportswoman and should embed this concept in their children as well. That's why today we're speaking about this, we're talking about this topic, which is sports. Now, if you can start, Ahmed, tell us about sports in general and the effect of sports to our health.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to wish my dear listeners to this holy month of Ramadan. I wish that the blessing of God will be blessed on all of them and bestowed on all of them. And thank Hatim and Wa'il for inviting me to talk and discuss this very important subject, which is sports and its implication or as a tool to be used in upbringing of our beloved children. Sports is not something that is new. It goes back in history, and it's very difficult to determine a D-Day and say this is the day where sports was invented. It's actually embedded and intrinsic in each person. A newly born child, after a few days, starts moving their hands because there's energy in that child. And sports is one of the means that could be used to focus that energy into something that is useful for the child and for the society. If you look at it historically, sports has evolved from different types. In ancient history, given the circumstances that people lived in, sports had more of a battle or a war type nature. So the type of sports that were promoted at that time were related to things like horse riding to prepare yourself for a battle. So unlike nowadays, you train to go and compete with a person. A few hundred years ago, you trained to go and kill someone. Okay, it has changed, and thanks to God, the world has become more peaceful, and people have had more time now to start converting what was used in the past in less peaceful ways into a more peaceful tool, into a tool that can be used for upbringing children, into a tool that can be used to promote good health, into a tool that could be used for social networking. And obviously, we all know that sports is also good for the mind as much as it is good for the body. Good minds reside in good bodies. We all know that. And you could see that in every school, whether in Oman or around the world, you'd also find sports facilities because the two go hands in hand. In addition to it's having, sports having the ability to improve the physical well-being of an individual, let alone the children, it also has the ability to improve the cognition ability of the same individual. It also has the character of building a personality. You'd notice that people that play team sports such as football or rugby, basketball, would be quite different in character from people that play tennis or people that play golf or people that play archery for that matter. Okay, so sports has evolved in a big way. And in recent times, it's even more important that one makes time for sports, because in the past, the lifestyle was different. From a physique viewpoint, you would get the benefits of carrying out a half an hour sport by just walking, or whether you work in the farm, you'd have to take a bus, you'd have to run around with the children, you'd have to clean your house yourself. You'd get the health benefits of sport by just doing that. But the modern lifestyle has changed quite a bit, and one has to make time to do sports. Yeah. So that's commitment. Unfortunately. And one has to choose a sport that he or she likes. Yeah. So things have changed quite a bit. That's in general what I wanted to say about sports.
And I think, Ahmed, also choosing the right type of sport. Sometimes you might love a particular sport, but maybe that facility is not available where you live, and you have to travel somewhere else to go and find it. Let's say, for example, if you love tennis, you can't play tennis anywhere. You have to go to a special tennis court to play tennis. So things have evolved and have changed, and people have different desires now in terms of sports. They have different views when it comes to sport. It's not always easy to exercise or practice this sport that you like now.
Sports could be part of your hobbies. We've had a whole program about hobbies and how we should nurture these hobbies. And if someone's hobbies could be more physical, or part of a type of sport could be a hobby, then that you hit two birds with a single stone. And parents should know exactly how to nurture these sports. And probably a lot of parents until today, they still look at sports as games only, and probably a waste of time rather than something that could benefit the child and increase or enhance their character or their cognitive abilities. Could you shed some light, more light on this? And what do you think the trend is nowadays? Are we moving out of that? Because I remember that when I was little, my parents took me to do sports, but at a later stage, when they thought probably school is more important, at let's say year 11 or year 10, parents tend to stop you. Said, no, you need now to focus on studying, and you go playing. So although they were supportive of it initially, I had to challenge them and say, okay, unless you see a drop in performance in my school performance, I would love to go and continue and do sports.
Indeed, it's the passion in a child that needs to be managed. At the same time, it's important that one looks at a child and tries to find out what are the true talents of that particular child. If the child has strong talents for sports, and he or she do not prefer to sit and study, then I think one has to nurture both. Yeah. The child has to carry out sports because that is good for them, and at the same time continue with their studies. The trend with respect to sports is not very favorable, at least from if I look at it from a spectator or people that watch sports compared to people that practice sports.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. So someone might say, I love football.
I love football. They know every single player.
But he's no more than a couch potato.
That's
from his own seat.
That's it. Yeah, the players are known. The leagues around the world are known. Okay, what time does the football game start is known. You gather friends, you watch, okay, and then you tell the same guy, let's jog for 5 minutes. He tells you, no, I'm too tired. Why don't you find somebody else to do that for you? That trend is not good, because partly because sports has been commercialized.
Yeah,
people make a lot of money out of sports.
This is another aspect, that sports turned from something that is healthy into something that is very unhealthy, which is competitive sport. Being competitive is good, but making it the main focus of sport is very unhealthy.
People take it personally. I see my colleagues at work, when one of their teams lose, they don't talk to anybody the second day, and they're always in a bad mood.
Yeah.
And it's at the end of the day, it's just I call it a stupid game. It's just a game, 21 players are fighting for the same ball, and you ruin your day and you ruin everybody else's day because of that game. It's just a game at the end of the day.
So this is one way how people have perceived sports in a very negative way, and I think this is one of the curse, shall say, of competitive sport and focus of competitive sport rather than leisure or a way of enhancing your health.
It's a personality.
Yeah.
That kicks in there. There are people who are good at managing losing a game, and there are people that would want to win, whether they follow the rules or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Having said that, the advantages of getting into sports, especially in modern times, are much and far beyond greater than of not getting into sports. Because if you don't get your child into doing any type of sports, at the end of the day, they'd be good in using WhatsApp. They'd be good in making phone calls. They'd be good in Googling some stuff on the internet and knowing what are they Googling. Okay, they become not so good in social networking. It's a point that is very important to bring about.
We talked about social networking here, but we would like to make the differentiation between the social networking you're talking about and the social networking we talked about.
Okay.
We talked about the cyber social networking, which is let's say, not the one you're talking about. You're talking about the actual physical, face-to-face networking.
Absolutely. It's the face-to-face networking. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, not a few, but many years ago, a child that moves into a new town would take a football and start bouncing it somewhere, hoping that somebody would see him, somebody of his age, that come about and they'd all start playing football.
Yeah.
That was a skill. You sit outside until you start making friends. Nowadays, if a child moves into a new town, they wouldn't go outside. They'll go into their laptop and start, finding whether there's an internet signal here or not. And they're making friends with people that they may never meet, and you don't know what kind of influence that internet could have on a child.
They might have a football game, but online.
Yes, they may play football game online.
Online.
You're right. And then the same child, you put him outside, and it becomes difficult for them to communicate with new people.
So here there are two main, very important aspects to what you have said. One, the importance of sports as an alternative way to pass time or to spend time for children. We have spoken about this again and again throughout the program since we started from day one Ramadan, that we need to give children alternatives. When we notice any negative behavior, then we need to fill the gap. When we stop them doing that thing, whatever they do, we need to fill it with something. And sports is definitely one which is on the top of the list. It doesn't only stop them from being WhatsApping or Facebooking or just surf on the internet, but it could also prevent them from going into much deeper and more dangerous stuff like drugs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the children have energy and a lot of free time.
Yeah.
If you don't put those two into a good use, they'll find a way of using it.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is really what you try to manage. You occupy them with things that are good for them, but you don't block them from doing things that they want to do if you don't provide an alternative. And indeed, sports is an alternative, and you may need to go through a number of cycles. It is very difficult. Yeah, from a personal experience, I've tried physical sports with my children. Initially, they'd tell you, it's boring. They'd rather watch TV or do something else. But then once they see you genuinely interested in that sport, they want to get into it as well. And that's a way of pulling them.
Joining them.
So they join you. You lead by example.
So you don't just preach them.
You don't just preach them. You play with them. So you tell them, I like swimming, and you go swimming with them.
Yeah.
Or I like playing tennis. Let's go and play tennis together. Because children like to follow. They would like to follow. And if you bring about the right principle, the right behaviors, then that is what they would follow.
And if you make the environment fun.
And if you make the environment fun, yeah. So, for example, if they start playing with you, you give them a chance to win here and there, they get more encouraged. But if you, if every time they play with you, they end up losing, you kill their confidence, and they go back to their TV, and they tell everyone about it. I don't want to play with this father. He just doesn't want to make us win, Yeah. Or, if the father is tall, for example, you don't take your child who is much shorter than you and you tell him, okay, let's compete on basketball. When you know that you're going to win, the child will never play basketball again. It's, and it doesn't mean that the child will never be able to play. No, he may grow up and become older and taller. Yeah. But if you kill it when he's young, he next time he sees a basketball, he gets scared, Yeah.
So it's very important to choose the right sport for
the right
you and
time
for your children.
You don't take a 6 years old and you put him in a gym and you tell him, I want you to be a bodybuilder, show me the muscles. You just can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. So not only that you have filled in the time of your child positively by doing sports, but you're also building a relationship between you and your child. So that's healthy. That's the first aspect from what I got from what you have said initially. The second aspect to sports is that it is preparing children for the future. Team sports teaches them how to be part of a team, be a team player, team building, and probably the networking aspect of it also. It helps them in their careers. Now, in any career that you'll be in, you need to have very good emotional intelligence, how to be good with people, how to behave in front of people, how to make friends, as well as being able to work with them in a team.
Indeed, absolutely. And if I may add, on top of that, it also builds the confidence of a child.
Yeah.
Which is something very important as well, choosing the right sport such that a child feels that this is something that I'm good at. Yeah. When you take a child and you put him in a sport that he or she is not good at, soon that child will start losing confidence, would feel useless, may start doing all sorts of things that you don't want them to get into.
Yeah.
Right? So you try them slowly and find out what sports do they like, get them to watch. You may choose a role model, for example, for a particular sport that they may want to follow. But then again, it goes to what Hatim was saying initially, and that is the facilities.
Yeah.
Which is another point. If you look at schools, for example, in most areas in Oman, schools would also have some form of sport facilities. We've done very well. Most of the areas, even smaller population, would have their own school dedicated to them. The same applies to health centers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, nowadays you find a health center almost in every small area, or every town has its own health center. It would be nice to have some kind of a sports complex, a small one, something that would bring the community together, would put the children off the streets.
Yeah.
At least if they start in schools. We went to government schools, public schools, and I believe that the sports facilities were not so good and were not prepared for nurturing the skills of the students. And maybe now things have changed, but still I would assume that things should be better and more improved, and more facilities are done, because at the end of the day, the sports should be part of the syllabus. That you should be a good sportsman as a good student at the same time. But it shouldn't be that, okay, you have one session of sports per week, and whether you play football or you don't play, it doesn't make a difference. Nobody asks, nobody trains you. So then that doesn't give the students the feel of that sport. Indeed. I don't know if you agree with me, but this is what I feel.
Indeed. Physical education needs to be more formalized and structured. In terms of facilities, I've been to several schools, and they're a lot better than the facilities that we had when I was at school. Yeah, it was probably a football pitch, gravel football pitch, okay, and a basketball court that didn't have any lines. It was probably just tarmac and nothing else on top of it. Facilities have improved, I feel, in schools. But what goes with facilities is the training.
Yeah.
where we stand, it's more of the individual's ability and capability that plays a role in what sports they play and in nurturing that skill. There isn't a structured way of bringing up a child and making physical education as good as mental education. So at schools, we've got classrooms where people get mental education, they learn physics, math, and the rest of it, geography. We don't have a structure whereby a coach would pick up a football player from a school and say, this seems to be like a good individual who could become a good footballer. We want him to excel in his academia, but at the same time, at some point, he may become a footballer.
Yeah.
Professional footballer.
Professional footballer. That is not there. It's now being done through clubs. Yeah.
And again, clubs. I would like to touch on this. Alhamdulillah, recently we've heard that the Sultan has allocated 1 million riyals for clubs. And this is a very good step, and it shows the importance of sports and the thoughtful vision of His Majesty into sports and the care he gives to sports. If I would be a little bit critical about this, and my idea is, okay, let's fund these large complexes. But if we look at the complexes, normally in the clubs are located far away from the residential areas. In addition to these, therefore, we need small play areas in every corner and every neighborhood. Even a small five-a-side football pitch, which could be coupled and be could have baskets as well, a badminton or a tennis area, anything, even a very small one that could be utilized by little children. This is something that we lack, and to me, I don't think this is the responsibility of at least now, it is not part of the responsibilities of Ministry of Sports. It is more into municipality and town planning as well, which is Ministry of Housing. So in our town plannings, how are we planning our modern towns and neighborhoods? I haven't found anywhere where you could see a proper place for children to play. Until recently, where I have visited some areas in Al-Mawalih or in Al-Hayl, where there are little parks where the mosque is, and that is a brilliant idea, because it is somewhere where people who go to the masjid, they always can see their children playing, and these areas are very close to the houses. You can peek from your window and you can see your child in front of you, rather than having them play far away. You don't know what's happening there, what type of language they're exposed to. So we actually need more and more of these play areas in our neighborhoods.
What you're saying is absolutely right, Dr. Wael, emphasizing that always we blame the children who are wandering around on the streets.
Yeah.
If you see, you can't blame them. They don't have anywhere else to go. If you have a dedicated place for them, like a park or like a play area,
and we don't need an expert to tell us what they need. If we just observe what they are doing, as soon as they see a plot of land between two houses that is not being built, they put posts and start playing football. Just observe what they do and give them what they want. It's very simple.
It's providing that guidance. You look at what they're doing and you guide it in the right direction. And the Ministry of Housing has allocated a number of plots in different areas. So from a master planning viewpoint, I don't think we lack areas that were reserved for social entertainment, if I were to call it that way. And then eventually it turns into a playground or a small park.
Yeah.
I feel that with the municipality councils being formed, this could be one of the areas that the municipality council could focus on, because it is quite specific to the areas. So children of a particular area, for instance, may prefer football compared to basketball.
So here comes the role of the society and people themselves to approach these people. Yeah.
I think we have a call. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. I think the call went off. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, I think our listeners can call us on 24602058, 24602058.
And follow us on Twitter at Hatim IIC.
I see.
That's HATIM, Hatim IIC on Twitter.
Okay, you were just talking about the role of the community when it comes to sport.
The community plays a great role, and I go back again to one basic principle, and that is if you don't keep yourself busy on the right things, people will keep you busy on the things that they want you to be busy with. As a society, we have to take the first steps into executing these great ideas. Instead of just talking about it. If you look at the promoters of iPads and media, telecommunication and televisions and so on, that is their core business. They've been doing that to capture people who have the free time and have the money to buy all of that.
And they succeeded in that.
And they succeeded. If we were to put the same effort, so if people started approaching, for example, the municipality council through the processes that are in place, then of course the response will be positive, and reasons for not putting a certain facilities will become known to everyone, and then that's where the society could step in and start helping out. It's unfortunate that most people are expecting these things to happen automatically. So, we'll talk about it, and then somebody at some point will put a club in my area. Even religiously, it's not enough just to say dua. You have to do something about it too. You can't just keep on there praying and praying. You really have to do something about your prayers, and then inshallah, God listens to your prayers.
Okay, let us take a short break, and then we'll continue with the discussion after the break.
The Modern Family.
Allah Azza wa Jalla, for example, commands in Quran in many places. One of them, for instance, "U'budu rabbakum." "U'budu rabbakum." Enslave yourself to your master. If you want to know, we study a lot of Quran, You could study tafsir for years and years and years and years. And my teacher asked me actually, one time I was studying with him, and I'd been not years, I was studying Quran with him for like 6 months, and he asked me, give me the summary of the Quran, one sentence. Actually, and I said, one sentence? He goes, okay, fine, 2. So he wants a summary of the whole Quran in 2 sentences. And I'm thinking, I'm going, in my head, I'm doing a review of the stuff he talks about all the time. How am I going to summarize the entire Quran in 2 sentences? And I remembered what he said, and I used it, and he said, you're right. Alhamdulillah. Here's what it was. Number 1, accept Allah as master and accept yourself as slave. A lot of people accept Allah as master, but they still don't accept themselves as slave. Just accept it. Internalize that He is master, you are slave. Accept that. Number 1. And after you accept that, the second sentence, accept that this guidance is only beneficial to people who accept themselves as slaves. That's it. You say, Iyaka na'budu, you accept yourself as slave. Then what are you ready for? Ihdina sirat. Guidance. Slavery and guidance is the summary of the entire Quran. The Quran began with slavery, Iyaka na'budu. It begins with slavery, and at the end, again, he calls himself master, which alludes to us as what? If he's the master of the people are his slaves. Ends with slavery. So this is the heart of the matter. A lot of people have no hard time accepting Allah as the creator. That's okay. That's not the hard part. Or accepting Allah as merciful, or as wise, or as powerful, or as one. All of that stuff's easy. Because if you accept Allah as one, there may not be any implications on you. Allah is one, that's nice, I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. Allah is really merciful, great. I still have my life. But if you say Allah is master, then what does that make me? That makes me slave. And to put it in very simple terms, the difference between a free person and a slave person is very simple. It's not a complicated subject. The difference between a free person and a slave person is, a free person does whatever he or she wants. What does a slave do? A slave cannot do what he or she wants. If a slave did what he or she wanted, then they would be considered free. The only thing that makes them a slave is they do what the master wants. If you accept that your will comes under the will of Allah, your will has to be submitted like a slave before the will of the master, then you've understood what this deen, what this book is, what this message is. That's the summary of this message. It sounds very simple. I mean, it takes 5 minutes to explain, but internalizing that is a lifelong struggle.
The Modern Family.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. Dr. Wael, you had something to ask our guest? Okay.
We didn't ask Ahmed, what sports do you play?
Okay.
Or you used to play and still playing and plan to play? And
I still play a number of them, and I call them sports because I don't get into competitions and gaming and so on. It is something that I do for fun and I enjoy. As a child, I started with football. It was the easiest game to get into.
The national
as a child.
game.
The national game, and 20 people can afford buying a ball.
Yeah.
And then I was awful at it. Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah, I was.
so did you sell your share of the ball?
No, I didn't. They took it away from me. It was basically in return for not beating me up for losing.
Okay.
And then my father used to play sports too, and he used to take us with him. So I started playing table tennis. My father works for PDO as well, so we used to go to the PDO club, and I played table tennis there. And then at school they found out that I'm a table tennis player, so I was put into the school leagues, and I actually won the I'dadiyya Am tournament for the Muscat region.
Mashallah.
And I was in I'dadiyya as a table tennis player.
Year 9, that was.
Now that
it was
year 9. Yes,
year 9.
It was year 9. Yes, yeah. Madrasat al-Walid bin Abdul Malik in Rui. And then I grew up. So instead of using a small bat for table tennis, I started playing tennis. And we had the first Oman Tennis Association. I think it was around 85 or 1987, around that time, where Majid Al-Asfour was the chairman of the Oman Tennis Association, with a number of tournaments, of which the first tournament was actually held in Ramadan. Okay, and at that time I've managed to score a number of games. In addition to tennis, I was also a swimmer for Nadi Al-Ahli, Omani. And I go to the gym quite often, and I did the 400 meters sprint as well for the school. Yeah, so I've done a number of sports. Currently, I practice more on tennis. I go jogging every now and then, and I do go to the gym. I've tried golf, but I think it's not too late. I won't say it. It's a very interesting game. It's good, and I would encourage people to try it as well. It gives you a different feeling. If I were to compare the different sports that I played, swimming was very tense. I still remember when you stand there and waiting for the gun to fire.
And jump.
Seriously, yes, because the first person to hear the gun firing would jump first, and you get and you're a step ahead compared to the rest. It was very tense. Yeah, you sit there waiting, and I still remember some of these guys who are very good in physics. They were saying that light travels faster than sound, so you'll see the smoke first. Believe it or not, there were people who are looking for the smoke. They were like, we'll see the smoke coming out first, and then we'll jump because we know the sound will follow.
But can we really make the difference? It's very close.
And you might jump in the wrong direction. You don't actually see the person that fires the gun. So that was very tense. But tennis was fun. It's also tense because both of them are individual games. You play by yourself. If you lose by yourself. You have nobody to share the pain with. Unlike football or the games where you've got a team to share the pain with. With golf, it was when you go into the golf course, it gives you a very good feeling. And then the question is, are you good at playing or not?
If I feel good, I don't care.
If you feel good, you don't care, and it's a good reason to walk around the golf courses. I mean,
I think I'll take the buggy.
They're very nice. Then it doesn't become a sport anymore. Okay, so I've done a number of sports, and I strongly believe that sports have helped in networking with people. It has helped me with my studies. It helped me with discipline. That's another thing that's very important. And I'd like that trend of seeing children being taken to do sports with their parents, relatives, to continue, because playing tennis and table tennis started with my father taking me to the tennis court.
What about your kids? How are they taking sports? How did you introduce sports to them?
So I'm still trying to determine the talents or which sports they like. I've tried, for example, taekwondo, some of them. Tennis, they've already started playing tennis. They've already started playing table tennis, because that is a sport that I could play with them.
Interesting that you said that the first sport was taekwondo, which is some parents might perceive that as a violent sport, or any martial art as a violent sport. Do you agree with that?
I do, and the main reason I chose taekwondo is because I started my son Qais at I think he was 6 at that time. I was looking for discipline.
Okay.
It's not about the violence, it's the discipline. Taekwondo, karate, all these are very disciplined type of sports.
I have something to add about this. When I started martial arts, I started with taekwondo, and my other brothers were big fans of football. They were very good footballers.
Yeah.
And always my parents thought that it's okay for them to play football, but it's not okay for me to practice martial arts because it's a dangerous sport. It's a violent sport. And surprisingly, that I practiced martial arts for more than 10 to 15 years, and I've never came back with a single injury, but they always came back with injuries. So maybe the perception that parents have that it is a violent sport, but it's not.
It's amazing how that these sports are always being promoted as sports for self-defense.
Yes.
Yes.
They are not aggressive sports.
They never.
You are not supposed to pose aggression on anyone. You're supposed to defend yourself, and that's probably why you remained protected.
I don't remember getting into a fight a single day.
There you go. So it probably teaches you how to get away from fights as well, or maybe your style kind of frightens people away from getting into a fight with you. But if you wear your black belt everywhere, then people will be nicer to you.
So what sort of sport did you play, Hatem, other than martial arts?
Hey, while you're asking very embarrassing questions, but
why did you do ballet?
Do I have to tell you that I did ballet? No. Actually, to my dad, it was very, very important to learn swimming. It's like the 5 prayers. You have to learn swimming as well.
Yeah.
And he made sure that all of us learned swimming, so he used to take us every single weekend to a swimming pool and just dump us there and, learn swimming. So swimming was part of our growing up. And then later on, all of us, each one of us had different interests. So my brothers really loved football. And from an early age, I realized that I'm not a football person. And I love martial art. And I started off with gymnastics and martial arts, and then moved on to tennis. And then at the moment, as I'm very, very busy, I just walk. I just walk a lot.
You walk to work or in the shops?
No. I walk.
Proper walk.
Proper walk.
Okay, not to your car from your car.
No.
Okay,
Proper walk.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
that's
it's interesting because sometimes you find people going around the gym looking for the closest parking to the entrance of the gym. They just don't want to get tired walking to the gym,
Yeah, because they're not in the mood yet until they go in.
Yeah, and then they go in, they look people tired, they come out sometimes and they think,
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
What about you, Mr. Questions?
What do you call me Mr. Questions?
What sports did
I've
you...
I've tried quite a lot of sports before I committed to several of them.
Yeah.
Football is a universal one, and I still play football. And I prefer the 5-a-side. It's more active, and you do a lot of more work in a shorter period of time.
And less chat.
And less chatting. You're not allowed to chat. I mean, it's if you play 11-a-side, then you have the time to relax. 5-a-side, very intensive. And during my time in university, I used to play twice a week, every time, 2 hours at a time. During my early days, I tried gymnast as well. I did a little bit of that, swimming. I did martial arts until I got a black belt in karate. I did Budokan.
MashaAllah.
I did also Hijum Musul. a little bit of that, which is very similar to Taekwondo. There was one time where I was a sports maniac, where during summer periods, I would wake up, pray Fajr, after Fajr immediately to the beach, dive, snorkel or cliff dive until about 10 o'clock. We go and pray Dhuhr. After that, after Asr prayers, then I have two routes. Either to go and play karate, or when I'm not going to karate, I'm going to the complex in Boshar and play basketball. After basketball, it'll be swimming. And after swimming, I go back home. After Maghrib, after Isha, I'm going and playing football again in Royal Hospital.
And you never joined the Olympics?
No. It was just for fun. I never liked sports as a competitive. I never liked that.
It's a sport.
It's a sport. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being healthy. And I used to eat a lot during that time. But it was good. It was good. I think I've overdone it sometimes, and this is something that we would like to warn our parents here, that do not overdo it. Do not allow your children to overdo it.
It might affect their health or affect their studies.
Yes, there must be a balance. And Ahmed, maybe you need to comment here about sports and summer and the link that some parents might put into this.
Indeed, yeah. There are parents who think that their children shouldn't do any sports because they've got to study. And then during summer, they send them to do some sports. Now, sports are refreshing to the mind. And as you do sports while you're studying, they actually refresh your mind and they improve your ability to concentrate and study better. It's not leaving your child until the exam results are out, and maybe it's difficult to fix things. And at that time, you ask them to do sports so that their minds become refreshed. It's too late. It should really, it's all about getting into the discipline of time management. Children don't know what is time management, and you need to engage them, speak to them, explain to them that there's time for sports, there's time for studying. The two are inseparable. This is good for you. And they would, in most cases, they would accept it. If they don't, then you just need to work hard on it and look at what the children's like. The other thing that we didn't talk about, which is also important, and that is sports go for both males and females.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's the type of sports may vary. So you may not want to see your daughter becoming a bodybuilder, for instance. Okay, but there are certain sports that could be practiced by women, and they are within the religion tolerance or within the society tolerance, and it's good for them as well. It builds their personalities. And women may have different views, or daughters may have a different view on sports. For example, my daughter Aya, she plays sport because it's fun. She doesn't want to win or anything. She just plays it.
Yeah.
She laughs, whether she wins or loses. She just laughs and goes out. And that is a good character that you could utilize in your professional career later on, which is basically accepting losing or being a good team player. It's very important. If you just play for the purpose of winning, you'll never enjoy the game.
Yeah.
If you like playing football, then play football, but just make sure that you are actually enjoying the sport itself. You're not playing just to win.
I know a few friends who stopped playing football for the same reason, that they intend to go there and have fun, just spend time and do what they like. But when they go on the field, there are people who are very aggressive and they take it really personal, and it's like the World Cup to them.
Yeah,
and they end up coming back home with injuries, and they said it's not worth going to play football and then you get hurt just because people think it's
that's another controversial subject, because there are those that believe that sports could help you calm down, and there are those that believe that sports could actually promote aggression. Whether it is this or that, getting angry is not good, whether in sports or outside. But for sports in particular, what you'd notice is that if you get angry, you're actually moving the energy away from the right place. If you want to jog, for instance, and you're not in a good mood, your energy will still focus. You're almost attached to the issue and you can't get away from the anger. And your energy will be focused on what got you angry, what got you this, and then the energy level starts going down and you can't perform as you should be. Yeah. So it does have a detrimental effect on the person, and it stays with you even after the event. You become so attached to the events that have caused that anger that your focus moves away from solving the problem into digging deeper into the problem.
Yeah.
You know?
So can sports be used as a tool for anger management, do you think?
Can sports be used as a tool for anger management? That's a difficult one.
Depends on the sport.
It depends on the sport, and it depends on the person. So people that play tennis, I've seen tennis players breaking their rackets.
Yeah,
that's an individual game. I've seen football players fighting.
Yeah.
You see rugby players fighting. You see rugby is half fighting anyway. Ice hockey.
It's part of it. If you don't do it, you get.
It's part of fighting.
Yeah.
There are people who in football, they get a yellow card twice and a red card. I mean, that's enough warnings that you're getting angry and your game is not good, and people still get angry. So it's very much a personality thing.
But the irony is, throughout my years doing martial arts, I've never seen any two fighting, apart from the sparring that they do. And I believe that the martial arts, it depends on the school. It depends on the school that you take your children to. If the sensei or the coach is someone who is educated and knows the philosophies behind these martial arts, then I think it's very healthy, and it would help manage anger and discipline. Because these Asian martial arts, there is a lot of sometimes Buddhist teachings or some philosophical teachings behind them. If the teaching goes hand by hand, the physical teaching and the philosophies together, I think it would help a lot into discipline. I've never seen. I was in Al-Bustan, and before Al-Bustan, I was in Boshar, learning with Sensei Hamoud al-Tawqi, one of the very early people who had black belts and taught. And he was always emphasized on discipline and good behavior. And sometimes it become a criteria. People who are very talented in the sport itself, but are not well behaved, might not even qualify to go into the exams for the promotion to the black belt. So we need to look into these as well.
Educate me on that, because my experience with martial art is that that almost applies in every school, that discipline comes first.
Yes.
You're first taught discipline, and then you're taught the self-defense techniques.
Yeah, I've been in schools outside of Oman as well. While my studies, I've done martial arts. They don't teach, at least in the school that I was in, they never taught the philosophies or the teachings. They never focused on behavior. And I seen what they call the senpai, which is the deputy, or someone, the assistant, the coach assistant. The Japanese term is senpai. He was taking everything personal, to the extent that if someone from the white belt in aspiring hit him by accident, he would go into a brutal fight with the student. So this is an example of a school that they taught the physical thing but never touched on the behavior. And that would be a very bad influence on children. So if you go into a school where they actually emphasize on the teachings, it's very healthy, in my opinion. From my own experience, it's very healthy.
Indeed, and if you are to compare two sports, martial art, for example, with an equivalent, which is boxing. If you look at martial art, it starts with two people greeting each other. They fight. And if I understand, you shouldn't cause harm, but it's more of just the technique, touch, without causing harm.
There are two types. For example, in karate, You're not allowed to inflict any harm, and you need to control. It's a touch. You need to hit very fast, very, very strong. You need to be very strong. But once you reach, you need to control, and it's only a very tiny touch. It teaches you how to control your body. In other martial arts like Taekwondo, you need to, wear some protective gear and hit very hard, like in Taekwondo. So it doesn't teach you that sort of control on yourself in Taekwondo.
So if you compare that with boxing, in boxing you knock him down.
Yes.
You know, in boxing that's winning. You knock a person down, and that is the fastest, and that will get you more points, and then you jump up and you're happy that and your opponent may still be there while you're jumping from joy, compared to karate, where you have to greet him and then you part.
Part of karate and martial arts, and maybe Hatem here can chip in as well, is not only that you learn how to throw a punch or a kick, but you learn how to control every single part of your body. You learn about your own anatomy and physiology, and how to control each part, and you learn how to breathe, which is very, very important in stress relief.
Yes.
Hatem?
I would like to add more, but I think let us go back to parenting, because we have a few points, maybe more to add. What I wanted to say is when you have a passionate kid that has a passion in sport, but the parent is so busy and they are occupied in this life, and they don't have the time to assist the son or the daughter to the special allocated place to perform the sports. Sometimes we just dump our kids in the sport and then we let go. We don't supervise. We don't know who's teaching them. We don't, ask them about what's going on, and we don't even watch their behavior when they come back home. What have they learned, or have they caught up with new habits? So, Ahmed, what can you tell us?
Yeah,
about?
that's an interesting point, because parents are in Arabic we call it the jumhur for their children, the audience for their children. Yeah. When a national football team plays a game, whether in Oman or abroad, their performance is affected by the audience.
Yes.
Yeah. The less audience they have, the less they could perform. Of course, it affects their morale, their confidence, and so on and so forth. For children, it doesn't matter how many people are out there. If we just put the parents and their close family members and friends, would suffice the rest of the world.
What you're saying is very, very true, Ahmed.
Yeah. So they need to see that. If you remember early on, I spoke about leading by example. Yeah, it's even better if you could play with them, let alone if you can't play with them, then let them play somewhere, but be there, show them that you're there to support them.
And compliment them.
And compliment them.
I know a few young men who are very, very good at what they do in sports, but they never had the encouragement from their families, and their families never attended a single game that they played, and they ended up letting go of that game, although they were very good in that. They could have had a very good future in that sport. But
there's a psychological school of thought that says that if a child doesn't get enough attention from the parents, they may end up doing the wrong things just to get that attention.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is something that as a parent you don't wish to happen. You'd like to give them the attention before they start seeking it, and before they start asking it, or before it starts affecting their performance, whether in academia or in sports.
What if your child chooses a sport that you think as a parent is not suitable for them?
I'm a strong believer in providing alternatives. Yeah, if a child is doing a sport that you don't believe is good to them, show them a sport that is good to them and get them to like it. Don't just stop them. Unless it's a sport that is extremely dangerous, everybody knows about it, and so on, that, it kind of breaks some regulations that you wouldn't do. But if it's a sport, if I were to give you an example, if you don't like basketball and your child likes it, I don't think that justifies stopping a child from playing basketball. Having said that, if you believe that the child is better in swimming, then you may ask the child to continue with basketball. At the same time, you get them enrolled into swimming. And they soon would start liking it, because there's that taste of winning. You know, a child plays basketball, they like it, they don't win. They go swimming, they win, they feel more proud, and then they start liking the sport.
The last point for today is, how do we have to encourage our children to be professionals in sports and taking sports as their career?
There's no harm in doing so. If a child is good, and as a parent, you'll provide the means for the child to be recognized by certain sports authorities, because we can't choose as parents. All we could do is provide the opportunity for a child to be recognized and be nurtured by clubs and by professional associations.
I know a local example who is Mr. Sulaiman Rawahi, who has two sons, Abdullah and Sanad, and he encouraged them since an early age, and they are the champions of the go-karting team, the Omani go-karting team, and he has supported them all along, and he always believed that this can be their career, and this is what they like, and this is what they're good at. So he nurtured their skills and their abilities, and they're world-class drivers now.
Well, there's nothing nicer than your hobby being your professional career.
Yeah. Mr. Ahmed Al-Askawi, thank you very much for being with us today, and I'm sure we all shared our sports stories, and our audience have maybe enjoyed today's session.
I'm sure they enjoyed.
We had a lot of positivity. The only worst part was while playing around with the laptop, but yes, we'll leave Wael with the thought of the day today.
Okay, we are in the final days of Ramadan, and there is the most awaited night, Laylatul Qadr. So please, dear listeners, take advantage of this night, and remember that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told us, whoever spends this night in prayer out of faith and in the hope of reward will be forgiven his previous sins. This is a night that the Quran tells us it's better than 1,000 months. It is a night that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us to pray a special prayer. O Allah, you are forgiving and you love forgiveness, so forgive me. May Allah forgive us all, and may Allah guide us all to be amongst those who are blessed to pray on this particular night. From me, Wael Al-Harasi,
and Hatim Al-Absalam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Then one day I'll be there with you.
The modern family. Let us bridge the gap between generations. Let us shape up the modern family. The modern family. The modern family. Join the discussion and give us your feedback. Live with Hatim Al-Absalam and Dr. Wael Al-Harasi. The modern family.